When I was in college, I found out that one of my teachers, my Joyce teacher, knew Wallace Stevens' daughter personally. And I was like, oh my God, can I meet her? And she was like, yeah, I can try to arrange like a luncheon where I invite you and her both. And I said, oh, that'd be so great. And I just worshiped Wallace Stevens. And I was so excited to ask her questions about him. And I translated some of his poems into French. And I sent them to her. And one of them was called Gubinal. And I have no idea what that word meant. I still don't know what it means, Gubinal. And she asked me about a word choice I had made in the translation. And I didn't have a very good answer for it. And I thought maybe she wasn't impressed by my answer. And a book had recently come out about Wallace Stevens that I just read. And it was basically interviews with everyone who had known him, who was still alive. And it was fascinating. But she wasn't in it. And she was still alive. She knew more than anybody. And I asked her why she wasn't in it. And she said because she wanted to write her own book about him and didn't want to give away all of her stories. And I thought, oh, but what if something happens to you and you never get to write it? That seemed like a really bad idea to me. But I said, if you need any help with that, please let me know. I'd love to help you. I really want to read that book. Now, Stevens had a really bad relationship with his wife. They did not get along, to put it mildly. And according to the biography of Stevens, when his daughter, Holly Stevens, who I was having lunch with, was going to get divorced from her husband, Stevens was so mad at her that he refused to speak to her for like 2 years. And we talked about this. And basically, I think he wanted to get divorced so badly and wasn't letting himself. And then when she decided she wanted to get divorced and she just was going to let herself, he was just so mad at her because I think he was mad at himself. And it meant that if she could get divorced, he could get divorced. And he hadn't. And he had basically wasted his life in this miserable marriage. I think he couldn't handle that. And there was one thing she told me, which was that on his deathbed, his dying wish was that she take care of her mother. And she hated her mother. And she said to him, anything but that, anything but that. And he said, no, that's what I want. I want you to take care of your mother. And she said, okay. And she said that she did. And she hated every minute of it. But she did it for her father. And over the years, I stayed in touch with her. And I would always ask her about her book. And then one day, she died. And the book never got written. And I was kind of blaming myself for not pushing harder to try to get her to write down what she remembered.